All right, what's up, people? What's going on? JV Wins, Dogon SS. We are back once again for what will hopefully be another fun, entertaining, and insightful addition to the Conscious Approach channel on YouTube. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Shouts out to everybody out there who's been, checking the videos out, helping us out, feeding the algorithm, hitting those like buttons, subscribing to the channel. And if this is your first time catching wind of what we like to do here in our little corner of the internet, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, hit that like button, let us know what you like or dislike about the commentary in any of the content, because we certainly appreciate the engagement. This is how we rock and roll each and every week, each and every day, each and every video upload. So we certainly appreciate everybody who appreciates us for contributing to kicking around this logical content. Thank you very much for the support as we continue to rock and roll. With that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get things kicked off, man. We got a few interesting things to talk about tonight, as always. I feel like I say that every video, but I mean it every video. So, exactly. But the first thing that we are going to get into for this stream are comments made by Trick Daddy, who at this point is an OG hip hop veteran. He was more prolific back during our generation, 90s and early 2000s. I think nowadays he is more known for reality TV. I'm pretty sure he does Love and Hip Hop. I believe there's a Miami version, which would make sense because he is from here. So yeah, I think that's what he's more relevant for now, is being a cast member on the Love and Hip Hop Miami television reality show. But back in the day, he was pretty regarded as one of the instrumental hip hop guys who put South Florida and Miami on the map back in the day.
Right.
So, shouts out to Trick for that. But that is not the reason why we are going to discuss Trick on Conscious Approach. We are rather going to talk about Trick on Conscious Approach because of comments that he made with respect to how he identifies himself culturally. And his comments went viral because he made it very clear that he does not identify as African American. To him, he prefers to just kind of strip away the African part, and he just looks at himself as kind of like American, and he just leaves it at that. He's not really on the African American thing, and he doesn't really understand the genesis of it or where it came from. But as far as he's concerned, it's American and that's it. He's never been to Africa. He's heard it looks great, but he doesn't really think of himself in that manner. And so he's just an American. So to cap it off, I'll go ahead and recap real quick. This says, Trick Daddy explains why he doesn't identify as African American. Trick Daddy took to social media recently with a divisive take on identity and heritage that is actually more nuanced than it seems on paper. Of course, this writer is in no authoritative position to speak on this, as the topic is whether or not Black people should identify as African American. In the Love and Hip Hop alum's case, he doesn't, and he explained in a video why he has more of a connection to United States soil rather than the African American moniker that many in the Black community prefer. Also, it's important to note that this is a matter of personal identity and autonomous self-categorization, and thus is not an attack or condemnation of those who see things differently. I'm trying to figure out how Afro get in front of my MF and race, Trick Daddy posited, as a proud Miami rapper. I ain't never been to Africa. I have never been to Africa, Afro or Africa. Never been there. I'm not from Africa. I was born and raised in Goulds, Florida. I was born in Goulds, raised in Liberty City in the Pork and Beans Projects. Ain't never went to Africa. Ain't thinking about going there. And I heard it's a beautiful place. Yes. And I know it's the motherland. Yes. But not my mother, not her mother, and not her mother's mother. That ain't their land. Americans' real true land is right here on U.S. soils. Elsewhere, Trick Daddy is dealing with some other social media narratives that are even more contentious and salacious. He recently threatened to slap anyone who asked him about the Diddy parties again, insisting that he never went to any of these freak-offs. Meanwhile, Trick Daddy will probably continue to make headlines for his often outlandish and blunt takes on a whole variety of topics, such as female rappers, so on and so forth. So here is a video audio of Trick making these comments.
I'm trying to figure out how Afro get in front of my motherfucking race. I ain't never been to Afro color. I never been to Africa. Afro or Africa. Never been there. I'm not from Africa. I'm born and raised in Goose, Florida. I'm a born in Goose, raised in Liberty City in the Poker Bean Project. I ain't never went to Africa. Ain't thinking about going there. And I heard it's a beautiful place. Yeah. And I know it's the motherland. Yes. But not my mother, not her mother, and not her mother's mother. That ain't their land. America, real true land is right here in the U.S. soils.
All right, there you go. So the article goes on to say he thirsted for Glorilla in quite the explicit manner, and he also recently defended Sexy Red after feeling that many award shows snubbed her, a sentiment that the St. Louis FMC appreciated. But in this case, it seems like this conversation around Black identity is a more personal and nuanced assessment than a headline would have you believe. So, there are Trick's comments about African American, the label rather, and how he doesn't identify as such. It's about U.S. soil, and he's never been, nor thinking about going to Africa. What do you think about what he said about, being African American or lack thereof?
I mean, it's more or less a sentiment that I agree with myself. His other stances on Sexy Red and Glorillas, separating that. I do agree with his discomfort with the term African American or Afro American or any other derivative of that. And the reason being is I feel like it's a real divisive term. I feel as though it takes away a lot of history by just slapping on African in front of American. Now, people would say that it is, related to your roots, which is the African part, so it wouldn't be taking away history, but just follow me along here. Now, if I encounter an everyday white man, and I look at this guy and, well, he's not American. He's probably got Irish roots or something, but he's just going to consider himself an American. Now, if you want to have a more nuanced conversation, he'll tell you where his ancestors come from. And then from there, he'll tell you that he's Irish. He has Irish heritage. But he's not going to be running around here saying that I'm an Irish American. He's not going to do that. He's just going to say that he's American. And I feel as though the term African American was used strategically as a divisive term to keep this whole this thing afloat, of which this wasn't our land to begin with. I really am under the mindset and doing my own types of researches and stuff like that. The people that we do call African American, we were here for quite a long time. We inhabited North America, South America, parts of Canada, all throughout the Caribbean and other places through regular forms of migrations. And there were people here that were in the North Americas that looked like us for a long time. But when, a group of people come and, steal the land, they do have to, one of the things that they did was to separate the people mentally from the land that was once theirs. So by doing so, the term African American and other terms that are similar to that fall in that boat, and it gets the mind away from the America that was once yours. Last thing I'll say, also dealing with this divisiveness, I found myself through some rabbit holes last week looking at Mesoamerica and also South America. and they're having the same type of identity crisis going on with their community. Now, from there, we've already discussed that the Hispanic term is, that's really more or less talking about Spaniard colonization, and I found out that Latino is just Greek colonization, and that they have their own name that, of their own indigenous name, which I don't remember at this time. But they're also dealing with these labels and identities given to them by people that colonize them. So, moreover, the point I'm trying to get at is when colonization happens, you don't just colonize the land, you also have to colonize their mind and colonize their identity. And one of these forms of doing it is this label called Black, African American, and others that are used to as divisive in the mind, I would say. So I agree with Trick Daddy here. He may not have been pulling it from all these areas that I was pulling it from, but he still has a innate feeling of this ain't right. So don't call me that. Just call me American. And I agree. But what are your thoughts? Sir JV wins on TDD, laying down saying, hey man, I'm not this African American stuff you guys are calling me. Just call me American. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I'm not. I don't think that he was thinking of it in that broad of a sense, but nevertheless, I do believe that there is a certain futility inherent in identifying as African American. Not too long ago, we did a video discussing Cameron, who basically echoed the same thing on his show with Mace, where he was trying to, as best as he could, articulate the way that he differentiates identifying as African American merely from identifying as American. And I agree with his take on that as well, which is, African American is a census designation. It's not actually a heritage identifier.
Right.
So very much like what you described, one place where I will depart with you a little bit, although I see where you were coming from, is if you ask the right person what's their heritage or where they're from, or not necessarily what's their heritage, but where are they from or what's their lineage or whatever the case may be. Most people who I run up on, they don't say I'm American. Now, granted, a lot of these people are in Anglo-Saxon. Most of these people are non-white Hispanics, but they'll tell you I'm Costa Rican or I'm Peruvian or I'm Colombian or I'm Cuban or I'm Puerto Rican. Even people who were born in this country and Americanized will still nevertheless identify as such. I knew a lot of people. I even, like I once dated a girl, for example. She didn't speak a lick of Spanish. Both of her parents spoke fluent Spanish. Both of her parents were bilingual, but they Americanized the hell out of her. So she grew up straight up American. And she don't know Spanish. I don't even think she's been to Puerto Rico. But at the end of the day, if you ask her what she is, she'll tell you she's Puerto Rican. Mm-hmm. But the value inherent in that is they have an actual culture to which they can identify. The reason why it becomes a more tricky conversation and why I agree with what people like Trick Daddy and Cameron has to say is because to say that you're African American, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, but to say that you're an African American is essentially to cop to your reality of being devoid of a true culture and a true heritage. And most of the people in this country, I would say, don't have to deal with that reality. Most people can say, oh, my great grandfather was from Austria, or my great grandmother was Polish, or, my aunt on my dad's side was German, Russian, so on and so forth. There's a language there's a language in a country of origin that is tethered to that identity that you can then take with you no matter where you are. So you can be in America or you can be in France, you can go to Italy, you can go to Canada, you can go to South America, you can live in Mexico, you can live in the Galapagos Islands, right? It doesn't matter where you live, you still have that sense of heritage in you because it wasn't taken away from you. Uh, uh, Melanated Americans of African descent, on the other hand, don't have that luxury because historically, the right to identifying with a language and country of origin was taken away, and so as a result, after emancipation, I'm not trying to get too historical, but after emancipation and after Reconstruction, you get to this point where it's like, well, how do we identify these people who are otherwise a lost tribe? Well, let's create a census designation so that we can identify them in terms of socioeconomic brackets and taxes. And where did we take them from? Well, we took them from Africa, from the motherland. So it fits. Let's put that on these forms so that we can keep count of them, because that's the most accurate way that we can keep track of and identify them, juxtaposed to where they fit within the tapestry of America. And that's really all African American is at the end of the day, is a census identifier. But it is in no way, shape, or form, meant to be something that you connect with in terms of one's heritage or culture. And so to that end, I'll say the same thing that I said when we initially talked about this similar topic with Cameron. I think that most of us, and you don't even have to be black, you can be from wherever, but if you don't have the benefit, the privilege of being born into a family where knowledge of these things are passed down from generation to generation, and at some point in your life you feel like you're like a lost lamb and you just want to know who you are or where you come from, I think everyone owes it to themselves, whether you're black, I don't care where you're from. If you're a part of America and you are, as you said in your opening statements, someone who by and large just says, oh, I'm American, but you don't really have that connection to your roots or who you are, I think everyone owes it to themselves. And I put myself in this boat. I include myself in this category as well. People need to do an ancestry, a 23andMe. People need to do something that at least gives you the opportunity to trace some sort of lineage back to who you are and your name and your family name, so that you can gain some semblance of culture. Because I think without that, it's harder to ground yourself in some value sets that can keep you, on the beaten path in terms of being a good person, a good human. So that's the lesson from this. Most people don't do that. Like, I know a lot of people, I've only known a short handful of people who fit into this boat, who don't really know who they are, but decide that they're going to do something about that. And so they investigate and they do some research. Now, at that point, you get the education and you figure out what you want to do with it. If you want to adopt some of the culture based upon some of the research that you find, and you gain some insight on where you come from, and so you want to sort of ingratiate yourself with some of those customs and ideals and beliefs, and I don't want to use the word ritual, but lack of a better word, rituals, just so that there's another aspect of community that can allow you to feel more whole as a person. I wouldn't take that away from anyone, and furthermore, I encourage everyone to do this. And just once again, in the interest of full disclosure, so that no one can call me out for being a hypocrite, this is on my list of things to do personally. I need to get to it. I've been wanting to get to it, and I'm going to get to it. But I think everyone else should get to it as well, because unless you know who you are or where you're coming from, identifying yourself via one of these hyphenated designations merely puts you in the box of being somebody who is a census designation that American can literally keep track of for taxing and economic purposes, which is what African American is at the end of the day. It has nothing to do with your heritage or culture. It's just an identifier. So I don't think Trick was coming at it from that angle either, but be that as it may, I think it's sage words if you were to pick from it the idea that everyone owes it to themselves to just do a little research and trace their lineage back to to the present day, or rather to trace it back to, the origins, just so that you can gain a better sense of culture and community. And I think one of the reasons why not most, but a lot of people in today's society become a little bit wayward is at least in small part due to the fact that there is a lack of cultural grounding that they can latch themselves onto to keep them from going as wayward as they've gone. So those are some of my initial thoughts on that. Again, I don't know that Trick was looking at it from that angle, but historically, what he had to say, there is a precedent for it. So I think everybody should seek out one of these resources. You do a lot of research and you know a lot more than the average person. I would say I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I'll give myself somewhere in the 50%, in the 50th percentile. But yeah, people need to, crack open those books. There's a lot you can learn. But yeah, do a little ancestry, 23andMe, do a little, any of those things to trace, where you may have come from. And I think, doing that can give you a lot of insight and give you a little more clarity on why it doesn't make much sense for you to identify as one of these hyphenated, regional stipulations which America puts forth.
I agree. And the census designation, that's also an angle. And my thing is, I look at the emancipating yourself from mental slavery aspect, because these words do have power to them, and they put people's thought patterns and thought processes in a particular box. Because if you consider yourself, and the reason why I brought up the whole, if you run into the average everyday, white guy, and you say, hey man, where are you from? What are you? Give me your whatever. And he's going to say he's American, and but if you ask the average black person, they'll say, well, I'm African American. They got two consonants on that thing. And so they're saying that they come from another continent. Well, so did the white guy. But he's not being forced or whatever to say he's whatever else American. And then they give Native Americans, which again is another divisive kind of thing. Okay, they're the natives of that, but who are the Americans? Well, it's not them. You're native ones. And these words signify ownership to me. And you own the country if you're an American. And if you got all these other things in front of your thing or whatever, then you're just something else. So, for the person that is Irish American, German American, whatever else American, what's the word you said? I don't know. We could throw Serbian in there.
Polish.
If they're all of these things American, then we need, if they want to lump the Native Americans as Native Americans, well, let's just call them migrant Americans or European Americans or something.
I think those are actually terms that are used.
Migrant American,
not migrant, European American.
Well, but it's not as oftenly seen.
No,
I don't know.
No,
I don't know. I don't know if that's in the bubble sheet when I'm filling out a job application.
It's not, but neither is any of that other stuff. To your yeah.
So, but I know I see Black and African American, non-Hispanic on mine, and they got all these things going on. They got Hispanic, Black, non-white. I don't know what they got to fill out, but they got their own little bubble things that's going crazy. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is that, again, if you just say that you're American, well, you feel like you have ownership of this place, this land, and all this other stuff. And the people that are around saying that they're all these other things, well, they don't feel like it. It's like a mental thing. So if it's a white guy from South Africa, is he an African American? I'm asking you.
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if he becomes an American citizen, then yeah.
Yeah, he's an African American, but he's a white African American.
Yeah, that's where it gets a little murky. Yeah.
yeah, man. So my whole thing is that these semantic games, when people playing semantics, when people splitting hairs like that, it's game behind it, is my point. And well, what's the game? What's the edge? But I do agree with you that because through separations of families and other things of that nature, through enslavement. People don't know who they, where they originally come from or any of that thing. But, there's information out there floating around. I think there's a book out there called They Came Before Columbus, where they actually talk about ships and trade routes and things that went on between Africa and the Americas. And whenever there's trading, there's intermingling, all right, inter-family breeding. So there was all kinds of stuff going on, which is why certain phenotypes here in North America differ from that in Africa. Because it was already a rigmarole shindig going down over here. And but we're taught one story in school, but there's information in books. So I'm just saying all this stuff to say is that I feel like these words are divisive and they're meant to take the ownership of America that Black people do have. Because a lot of us do have ancestry that trace back to what people call Native Americans and other things. So I would just ask people to also look into that. But yeah, I don't get down with any of these words. I use them colloquially. I use them as jokes. Because I'm not going to be around here saying other things. People need to know what I'm talking about. But as far as myself, do I run around calling myself African American? I only do it ironically. And if somebody gets it and they know me, then they'll get a good chuckle out of it. But honestly, I don't proclaim to be myself that. I don't call any of my peers or friends that unless I'm being ironic. But yeah, so I agree with T Double D. You know what I'm saying? With Trick Diesel. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that the psychological ploy is lack of an understanding. Think about it this way: like if you, it's very common, right? Like a lost dog, for example, that's been running around in the streets for as long as it's been running around. It has no home, it has no family, it has no pack. It'll latch on to the first person who's willing to give it a bowl of water and some food. Next thing you know, the dog isn't going to leave. It's going to stay there. If it's a stray dog and the dog's been stray for months and it's running around in your neighborhood and you give it water and food because you're feeling sorry for it, the next day that dog's going to be there waiting for more water and food. And that dog's going to be saying, hey, maybe this is a home for me because prior to yesterday, I wasn't given food and water. I never had a home. So I'm going to stay here hoping that these people will take me in. I think that's the analogy, or rather that's the way that I analogize lack of a heritage, or rather a lack of knowledge of heritage, and why people would so openly identify as hyphenated American, because there's no knowledge of the contrary. So, everyone wants to feel like they belong somewhere. And if you don't know where you belong, well, the easiest thing to do is I am American because I've been here my whole life. I've been socialized with these rituals and customs. I've been conditioned to believe in these tenets. I'm not going anywhere. They feed me, they give me water. So, otherwise I'm lost, and I don't want to be lost. I think intrinsically people don't like feeling lost. And I think that's the ploy. And that's where the power of these hyphenated terms come from. But knowledge of these things is what helps keep people grounded. And the last thing that I'll say, because I don't think this is a coincidence, and I don't think that it's a coincidence that people like Cameron and Trick, two Black guys, are speaking on this, because now granted, I'm not hollering causation here, but I am going to suggest correlation. And when you look at some of these, I think that knowledge of culture and language and heritage and homeland correlates to certain things like marriage rate successes and income levels, and propensities for families to be together, and propensities to perceive family units as something that is actually valued within a particular population. So, not, again, this isn't causation, but I do holler correlation, with the latest numbers. And I just looked this up real quick. Marriage rates among white people is 57%. Asian people is 63%. Hispanic is 48%, and then bringing up the rear is 33% for Black people. Marriage rates have declined for all races since 1995, except for Asians. But in 2021, the first marriage rates for Black men and women were 21.1% and 18.8%, respectively, the lowest among all races. And then if you look at income levels, Asian, the median household income, $112,800. All of this data is from 2023. So this is fairly recent data. White non-Hispanic median household income $89,050. Hispanic median household income $65,540. Indigenous people median household income 57,270 people, and then Black people are bringing up the rear, $56,490 median household income. Now, I just found these data points real quick. I just kind of thought it up off the top of my head because I think that these are data points that correlate to a cultural lack thereof, in my opinion. Because in my opinion, and this is where I do get a bit anecdotal, all of those other classifications of populations have a stronger sense of community and culture than the ones that Trick and Cameron come from. So I think knowledge of culture and community and heritage and lineage helps to keep people grounded. Is it the end all to be all? Of course not. People still go wayward. That's why, despite culture and heritage and lineage being stronger amongst Asian people, for example, you still have their marriage rates being 63% and not a number that's higher than that. So things can always go left. But if you're going to ask me whether there's a correlation between these various observations and the success rate of some of these other societal things, I would say that it exists. And it, at least in part, explains why, Black Americans, in my opinion, bring up the rear. So all that goes to say my central point that I think that additional research, just the extra initiative to gain some semblance of who you are and where you're coming from, what your country and language of origin is, can help with some of these things that we look at in the present day and say, well, what's going on? Why are we so crazy out here in these streets? That plays at least a small role in it. And I don't think that it's a coincidence that some of these other communities who are a bit more grounded have a bit less of those types of conversations than we do. So, that's the kind of thing that I kind of took away from this mainly. So I think we all owe it to ourselves to do these things. I think it's paramount. I think it will make us better and more impactful, better contributors to society. And specifically when it comes to our community, I think knowledge of these various things makes us less likely to hitch our wagon to the star of hip hop music and pro basketball and football. But, I guess that's a larger conversation for another video, but that's just initially how I feel about that one.
Yeah. And last thing I'll say, to just piggyback off that, and also just finding those things out, also finding out just because Africa is an entire continent. Figuring out which one you came from is, outside of these DNA tests type of things, do your thing, I guess. But I like to study the whole continent, because the whole continent, for the most part, they all speak the same spiritual language. They all, for the most part, had the same philosophy on life. And if you want to go back to ancient philosophies before colonizations, that would also do you a great service, because you'll see the stark contrast between the current philosophy you now have. And then you'll start to put the various blocks in place of, damn, when did we start thinking like that? And then you might want to start, moving back to originality. Because right now, I'm telling you right now, with all of these buildings, Wi-Fis, combustible engines, and all of this other stuff that people think is civilized, honestly, it's quite primitive. So yeah, just do yourselves a favor, man. Just look through some old ancient philosophies that went on around the world, and just see how they contrast to the current philosophies now of McDonald's and microwaves. So yeah, do yourselves a favor, man, and just look up it all. We have a very rich history, and the world knows it. About time you know it.
Shouts out to Trick and once again Cam. I had to bring back up that old video from Cam. Y'all check that out if you ever get a chance. Yeah, I don't dig the African American name either. I don't even self-identify anymore. I just say I decline to self-identify. Whenever given the opportunity, I just decline at all times because it's not a real thing. It's a statistical observation. It's not like an actual thing. Like it's not a real thing that exists. So
Until they do away with affirmative action, I'm gonna keep putting it on there because I might be the Negro hire. That's
you don't need it. You don't need it anymore because they got DEI. They got DEI now. So you don't even need. You don't need affirmative action because corporations love y'all. So well, they love us. So we don't need. Yeah, you can just do it. You can not. You can not. You can decline to self-identify because DEI can be your next best friend.
And then I'll just put they them then.
Yeah.
How about that?
Go for it. Go for it. That'll get you in the room real quick.
That's what I'm saying, bro. I'm all of that. I'm they, them. I'm us.
Shouts out to Trick, man.
Yeah.
Okay, and so from one somewhat informative, positive story to perhaps the opposite. Lamar Odom, he's been down worse than he is currently, but after this, in my book, he's down all the way bad, in my opinion. But Lamar Odom recently purchased a sex doll, or rather, he's in the market for. He's building his sex doll. And not only is he doing this, not only is this something that this guy's actually doing, but he wants to buy one that resembles his ex-wife, who is Khloe Kardashian, one of the members of the Kardashian cartel. And I just think that Lamar is all the way down bad for this. And this represents why men have completely lost their way. So we'll just go ahead and get into this because this is disturbing to me. But this says Lamar Odom takes heat for buying a sex doll that resembles ex-wife Khloe Kardashian. Lamar Odom and Khloe Kardashian were in a relationship from 2009 to 2013. The two got married in 2009 after only dating for a month. Odom, a former NBA player, enjoyed a 14-year career in the league, winning back-to-back championships with the Lakers in 2009 and 2010. He won the NBA's Sixth Man of the Year award in 2011 and played in an all-star adjacent level for much of his Lakers tenure. Odom also had a substance abuse issue that culminated with the former NBA player being hospitalized after being found unconscious in a brothel. Odom suffered a heart attack, kidney failure, and multiple strokes, leaving him on life support for a period before he made a full recovery.
Damn.
Khloe Kardashian and Lamar Odom were in the middle of divorce proceedings before Odom's health scare, citing irreconcilable differences. Once Odom was healthy enough to resume leading a normal life, the two finalized their divorce. Kardashian has been adamant that the two are never getting back together, so Odom custom ordered a sex doll that looks like his ex-wife. So here is the tweet here. Here's somebody who is reacting to this. I just want to know what's up with Lamar Odom walking around the sex doll factory like it's a Target. Bro really got a problem. In a new video, Lamar Odom toured sex doll company Real Dolls Las Vegas facility on Tuesday. His manager, Gina Rodriguez, told TMZ that Odom saw Red Doll in a news story a month ago and decided that he needed to get one for himself. Odom's 45th birthday was on November 6th, and he was in Vegas to celebrate, and part of his celebration was to place his doll order. Because of this, Lamar Odom has been getting roasted online for the last couple of days after this revelation. Lamar Odom is a sick freak, said one Twitter user. While y'all at it, lock Lamar Odom up. That N-word, sick as hell, said another user. I just want to know what's up with Lamar Odom walking around the Okay, that's the one I just read. It is certainly odd behavior by Odom, and the criticism he is receiving is unsurprising. If there was any chance of the two getting back together, there is probably no chance at all now. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to play a clip of Lamar taking his tour and putting in his order for his life-size plaything. Here we go.
I think this one. That one.
This is called squirt machine.
Oh, these ones might be wet.
Squirt machine.
Hold this one for you for now. Or can they make you?
Listen, hey, are you going like this?
No, not that one.
What the hell?
So we got one of the more popular ones.
Oh, wow.
It's the body app, biggest tits, biggest ass.
What?
She bad.
She bad.
It look like I can see. It look like I can see the butt.
She has the biggest ass.
Yeah?
Yeah, out of the dolls. Yeah.
I can see her ass from the front.
What?
Yeah, I can look. She's a shaped like a woman. I can see her thigh.
Bro, get out of here.
Look at the foot. Look at the ankle. Even, right?
And yo, it's crazy because it looked like right here. It looked like she got blood running through her veins right here. Am I bugging or am I going crazy? Look.
No,
Hyper-realism.
You see it? Look,
That's
Jen.
K right over there.
All right, guys, you get the idea because I can't watch anymore.
Damn. This is
But-
sick.
But there you have it, man. So yeah. So he's been getting roasted on the interwebs for this as of late. What do you think about this, man? What are some of your emotions that come to the surface seeing Lamar Odom take this tour like it's just whatever, like he's just going to be doing this because I guess this is where he's at.
First thing that pops in my brain is, just sex addiction. That's all sex addiction right there. That's the only way that any of this makes sense. You're really off the deep end if you're doing that. There's other male toys out there. And I've thought that was crossing the line too. The Fleshlight and others. But the dolls, I knew they were coming. It was only a matter of time. They're only going to get more and more realistic. So the sex hounds are going to be coming out of the woodwork. And it's crazy that Lamar is just so
casual. Yeah,
casual with this whole thing. Like, no shame in this game. Yeah, I can see that ass from the front. What? What ass? What are you talking about, man? And the fact that he wants to get him made like the Wicked Witch of the West is also concerning in the sense that, man, he don't even know what kind of spell they put on him. Listen, man, there's no coincidence that guys that go over there, first of all, they got to be a little screw loose anyway to be dealing with these women in the first place. But it's another thing once these guys come out of it with even more screws loose, apparently. And I think it's for good reason, man. I think whatever their family does in their seances or whatever they do to these men, it works. And why would you want one of her, of all people, man? Like, these fake looking creatures. But hey, man, Lamar clearly has a sex addiction, to the point that he needs to be, busting off all day with this thing. You talk about not coming out of the house. This is taking pornography to the next level. People are going to be watching pornography while they're doing this. It's a sick world, man. Yeah, this is a sick world, man. He need help. That's where I'm at with all of this, man. Because again, man, I get it. You know what I'm saying? But I think males, especially in our cohort and the ones above us, we made pornography a little too casual, and that's how we get here. The whole industry is, people take that too lightly, and clearly its proliferation has created these addicts. So I'm glad he's doing it with a doll and not a real woman. You know what I'm saying? Let him get that weird energy out on an inanimate object, and don't populate the pool. Don't put more toxins in the pool that's already out there. But what are your thoughts, man, on Sir Lamar Odom? Down bad. Jeez. Shopping for sex bots. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, we are approaching the end times.
Yeah.
Yo, to be a little tongue in cheek, the Kardashians, I referred to them at the opening of this video as a cartel.
Yeah.
They're just a cartel of a different variety. They're not a drug cartel. They're a different kind of cartel. And cartels typically engage in kidnapping. And there's a word when you fall in love with your captor. It's called Stockholm Syndrome. So Lamar Odom, to me, with respect to him wanting the doll to resemble his ex-wife, he's been Stockholmed into that. Yeah, it was a lost cause for him before he could even think. That was his decision. The minute that he made the decision to do this in the first place, he already knew what he was going to make it look like. Mm-hmm. He was Stockholmed into that. These are the end times. I remember watching shows like Black Mirror and thinking to myself, "There's no way we are here." This uniquely affects men because men. I think everyone is afflicted with the sexual deviancy disease.
Yes.
But where women have an advantage is they can still go out into the world and be approached and accosted sexually. Whereas if you're a man, if you don't have that in you, you'll just basically be a leper who's actually not interacting with women, period. And it's this kinds of stuff that's exacerbating men in the world who, as far as I'm concerned, are increasingly becoming sexually atrophied, lepers, if you will. And then to your point, you'll have women complaining about where all the men are. Well, this is where they are. They are buying sex dolls and they are doing things virtually. There's some guy somewhere who is looking to buy an Oculus or a MetaQuest, not to play video games, but to do something like this virtually, because it just enhances the experience. Meanwhile, you're spending all of these hours indulging in these very damaging and dangerous vices, and there's just all of these women walking around out here in the world wondering what the hell happened. Well, this is what happened. And the ironic thing about all of this is, a guy like Lamar Odom, well, maybe not Lamar himself, because I don't know what his money looks like, but I would imagine that there is a person who has similar afflictions to Lamar Odom, but he's way richer than Lamar Odom. He's way more well off. He's way more affluent. And where we've gotten so confused in the world with some of these labels, like high value man, for example, is you have a lot of these women out here who will look at that guy and determine that he is a high value man. And meanwhile, he's buying sex dolls and doing MetaQuest sessions. And he has, I don't know how many OnlyFans subscriptions, but they call him high value because he makes a lot of money. Completely confusing what value actually means and what high value actually means. But they'll go for these kinds of guys, and then when they get them, and then when they get with them and realize how off they are from a social standpoint, from a personal standpoint, they extrapolate that to the rest of men, and they say, what's going on with the rest of the men in the world? Well, this is what's happening. Sexual deviancy is running amok, and we've gotten confused in terms of what value actually constitutes. So you'll get a guy who probably has vices such as these, but makes the money. Therefore, he is perceived to be of a higher value, even though he really isn't, because he's probably going to give you what you don't want in terms of the kind of household that you want to live in and the kind of partner and life mate that you want to have. But this is what we have going on in the world when people don't know who they are, a lot of confusion. And I think Lamar Odom is a facsimile for that. You can argue, you can holler all you want about how this is a one-off outlier. It's the minority. It's not really happening on a large scale. I beg to differ. I think that a lot of these observations are examples of a slow trickle down to the rest of everyone else. And it isn't before long before every guy is thinking about getting himself his own personalized sex doll. Just like you may have thought that it was only a little bit of people who were subscribing to OnlyFans and this was a niche thing that was going to blow over, and you got OnlyFans making billions of dollars a year. Which is why I think that it will never be banned in this country, because it makes too much money and it factors into the GDP of this country way too much for it to ever get banned. Same as Twitter. These things ain't going nowhere because they make too much money. So there you have it. It's unfortunate, but this is where we are. And I will just grab my popcorn and continue to watch the degradation of men as we know it with each passing generation. Lamar is in his 40s. Lamar Odom is in his 40s. And this is going to more effectively influence, I would say, millennials and Gen Zers and every other generation after that more than older generations. So if we see this afflicting our cohort and even generations older than ours, one can only imagine what is going to continue to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. So I say good luck to everybody out there who loves this anarchic, deregulated, let people do whatever they want society. Get back to me in 100 years and let me know how you feel about that.
Yeah, man. Again, bro, this is the byproduct of conditioning, social engineering, if you ask me. The human, by in itself, if not conditioned or socialized the right way, could just, being a sexual deviant isn't a hard thing to fall into if they're not conditioned well. Well, even if you're raised in a house, a situation, or anything like that, where, you're being shown the right path or what have you, when everything around you, all kinds of stimuli are around you, showing you that sexual deviancy is okay. This is the byproduct of it. People can say, "Oh, yeah, y'all blowing this out of proportion. It's not a big deal." You know what I'm saying? He's just trying to, get one off real quick. While you hating on that? What's the difference between that and your left hand? All right. Everybody can have all their little whatchamajigs to say about this. But to me, there's just something about an inanimate object that looks like a human that's not moving, not talking. And you have, some necro action going on with that. It's like, what are you getting into, and what are you opening up when you do that, spiritually or mentally, when you lay down with this plastic thing? How are these people going to start interacting in society? What will their new thing be whenever they're with a woman, with a real woman, if they actually get their hands on one? What is that going to start looking like? This stuff is really concerning, man. And, but I'm not going to sit here and worry about what Lamar Odom is doing or anybody else that wants to get into this. That's y'all loss. The real thing is much better. I would sit here and state the reasons why, but apparently these guys are too lame to figure it out. So, so y'all can keep having sex with plastic and leave the real thing with souls to the real people out here that can actually get it. And you bots out there, keep having sex with your bots. And if anybody out there, you know what I'm saying, whether they OF subscribers or something like that, that can't wait for these things to drop. You know what I'm saying? You just waiting on a day, bruh. Y'all the ones that's giving us a bad rap in these streets. Cause what are y'all talking about when y'all around these females? What are y'all doing when y'all around these females, homegirls?
They're not around them.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I believe they're not around them anymore.
Well, I don't know. I think there's a mixed bag, bro. There's guys out here that got an old lady and got old OnlyFans stuff, is my point. not everybody that watches OnlyFans is lonely and in their basement.
I agree with
Yeah.
that, but I don't think those guys are gonna ever buy a doll either.
Wait, bro, who knows?
I would
That's
hope
my
not.
point. That's what I'm getting at.
If that's the case, then we're even more lost than I thought.
Well, this is my thing, dog. You know what I'm saying? There's gonna be dudes out there that got an old lady that's gonna get a doll.
Well, that would be the progression then. That's how it continues to get worse.
Yeah.
That's why it's not blowing it out of proportion. That's why it's not. It always isn't a big deal until it becomes one. That's the thing about this stuff is everyone says it's all good and it's all okay and there's not really a big deal until it becomes that. All right. I mean, it's, yeah, like when I was in the mid 90s, when I was a child, a kid in the mid 90s, the only way that you could watch adult content is if you had that scrambled cable box,
Right.
and you were able to get it straight to where you could watch HBO and Cinemax on the weekends late at night, and they play that softcore stuff. And there were people back then who were saying this is the work of the devil. Lo and behold, here comes the internet in people's houses, and then here comes pirated content. Here comes Napster and Kazaa and Morpheus and LimeWire, and it's right, yeah. And all of a sudden, it's right there in front of your face, unlimited.
Yeah.
And then what beget that? Streaming websites. So now I don't even need to pirate anything anymore. I can just go on to some of these tubing websites, and it's unlimited for free.
Mm-hmm.
So that then begets OnlyFans, which begets sex dolls, which begets what's next. So I don't want to hear anybody coming to me talking about blowing this out of proportion when those same people who are talking about y'all blowing this out of proportion are going to be the same people complaining about, about socially leopard, socially atrophied, neutered men walking around in the world with no scrote. The same people. So which is it? Is it not a big deal, or do we have an issue? It can't be both. So that's my thing, is it's always not a big deal until it is a big deal. Some of y'all content creators out there, y'all loving this current ecosystem because y'all can make money by doing nothing but existing. Yet you somehow imagine a world where you have a husband and children in the next 5 to 10 years. You do realize that these guys who you're going to be marrying and trying to procreate with are going to be guys who have these porn addictions and buying these sex dolls. Good luck. That's all I'm saying. So it's always not a big deal until it becomes a big deal. So I hear what you're saying, but I would like to think that we aren't at a point where a guy has a woman in the house and is still thinking about doing this. The sad thing is, I can't say you're completely wrong, because hell, if I know, I thought I knew a lot of stuff a year or 2 or 5 years ago, and I'm completely off because this stuff is way off the rails at this point. But I do believe that this is indicative of a larger issue that I believe is uniquely plaguing men. I've said it on several other topics on this channel before. In my opinion, I think men are ceding way too much power when it comes to sexual dynamics to women, not because women don't have their own leverage, but because we're ceding some of our own leverage to them, essentially doubling up on the leverage that they have and making it to where we have no value in any sort of setup, which to me throws off the balance of power entirely. You going to buy a sex doll is another indication of that, in my opinion. So I hope that this does not become more of a thing. But if this is a trend that is similar to everything else that I've seen going on over the last 10 years, we're going to be seeing this stuff on every corner pretty soon.
Oh yeah, 100. So yeah, man, we'll see what happens, dude. Hey man, the population got to get curbed somehow. There's still going to be hetero dudes out here, and they have to waste that stuff somewhere. So why not a Khloe doll? So hey man, and come on, Lamar, Khloe though. The fellatio wasn't that good, bruh.
That's Stockholm, bro. It's Stockholm. That's Stockholm all day. That's Stockholm all day, every day, bro. Better Khloe than what Eddie Winslow got going on. Better, I'll take Lamar Odom than that.
Hey, man, Eddie Winslow in Stockholm, man. You heard about Carl Winslow at the Diddy parties being a power bottom. Hey, man. It's a cold world out here, man.
This all makes me very sad. Lamar, bro, I'm gonna pray for you. I'm praying for you, bro. This is not okay. I think if you already bought that doll, you need to go take it back. Get your money back.
Too late, bro. You heard him describing that dog. Oh, look at the veins right here. This man talking about veins in the feet. He's done. Oh man, it's a wrap for this dude.
Hey, man! All you guys out there, don't be Lamar Odom. Don't be. Don't do it. Don't do that. Jeez. Oh gosh. Shouts out to Elisa Little on the chat. Chiming in, she said Odom said that Kardashian smells like the back of earrings. She also said Odom was culture shocked and nose dived. I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
They look like they smell like the back of earrings.
Hey man, scary times out here. Lamar, bro, I'm praying for you, bro, because this ain't the way. It's just not the way, bro. Next up, we are going to talk about Logic. Indie, is Logic considered underground? What is Logic? Is he mainstream, underground?
He's definitely not mainstream because he's not on the radio. So yeah, I'll just call him.
He's a hardcore fan. Yeah, he's one of these guys who has a hardcore fan base. Like,
yeah, I'll say that.
If you know him, you eat, sleep, and breathe Logic, probably. And if you're not one of those people, you're just like, I don't even. What is this guy talking about? But Mr. Hardcore guy, hardcore hip hop guy, Logic, made some interesting comments when he said that he's going back to turn up songs because super hip hop music does not pay the bills. He said it doesn't make money. So this says Logic says super hip hop music doesn't pay, plans to drop turn up songs. Logic believes that his latest project, Ultra 85, came straight from his heart, but all that effort didn't pay off, at least financially. The rapper ran into the folks from TMZ while headed to Detroit and said that his new goal was to make upbeat turn up shit like Playboy Cardi. Speaking of another soy boy,
right.
What I've noticed is I've been on a run of doing super hip hop music. That shit doesn't pay the bills at all, he told the site. It's because I made all my money before doing pop and turn up stuff. And then I've been blessed enough to be a musician, to be able to make music from my heart. But next year, I'm going to F them up. I'm about to drop all this Playboy Cardi trap, turn up stuff, and go get a bag and have fun. I did my best, and I feel like it's important to speak from the heart, but it's okay to get money too. Logic's Ultra 85 was in the works for approximately 8 years and features guest contributions from T-Man the Wizard, DJ Drama, A Day, Lucy Rose, The Loopers, and Robert Ivory. Ultra 85 was the original working title of the 34-year-old MC's short-lived retirement album in 2020. When he signed off under No Pressure instead, many assume that he simply changed the name of the package while publishing the same track list. However, the outro of Heard 'Em Say from said LP features a robotic voice saying, "This concludes the No Pressure program. No Pressure Ultra 85. Welcome to the Ultra 85 program." Meanwhile, Logic's new model, Playboy Cardi, appears on Tyler the Creator's new album, Chromacopia, but his contribution is so far limited to the vinyl edition. So the article goes on to talk about Tyler the Creator and not what Logic talked about. But there you go, man. Mr. Logic, he's another one of these guys who thinks he's really smart and insightful. He said that he's going to go back to turn up trap music because super hip hop does not pay the bills. He thinks you can make music from the heart, but also get a bag and have fun too. And he's ready to go back to getting a bag. So what do you think about what he said there? Super hip hop does not pay the bills.
I mean, I agree with that if you want to be a lyrical miracle, empirical MC, then nobody's going to want to hear that. And honestly, I feel as though that ear is slowly but surely dwindling away. I think that the younger you start to get, the more out of touch they are with that kind of rapping to begin with, because they didn't really get much of it. So they're really conditioned to this Playboy Cardi sludge. So and when Logic came out, man, I felt as though I have two categories whenever somebody's doing their thing, whenever they're rapping or whatever. I was like, can this person rap? Meaning, do they have good timing? Can they make words rhyme? Good breath control. Are they a good artist? But not do they make good music? Can they rap? And Logic can rap. He can rap fast. He can rap slow. He can do any damn thing. So he's talented when it comes to that. But whenever I first heard him, I was like, okay, bro. So, you know what I'm saying? And I saw him make an effort with bars. So I'm like, okay, bro. I'm just waiting for the one that actually hit. And the more I started to listen to his stuff, I never found the song or anything enough. And then I kept listening. I was like, I don't really like this guy. But that didn't take away from all the people that did like him. So he does have a strong following. So technically he he fits that underground mold. But you're really underground if you stay there. So for him to say, oh, I'm going to make some dumb, ignorant stuff, turn up and have fun because, there's more money in that, basically. That's not being true to form. And if you're making super raps, you're supposed to be making those super raps for a deeper reason.
Right.
And so for you to turn your back on that deeper reason because it doesn't have any financial gain in it, then what were you in the game for in the first place? Why were you making all those super raps in the first place? So to me, this comes off as Logic always did to me. Not authentic, a wannabe, a put on. And listen, he never even crossed the threshold with the people that want bars. Like the people that want bars, like they're not chiming for Logic. I'd rather hear Alchemist rap than Logic. And that's no knock on Alchemist, but he's a producer. But Alchemist knows how to rap. He's good. And there's other guys out there that are just good. And you don't really need much from them. But every time they get on a mic, this guy be snapping. And it's not always murder, kill either. Or selling drugs. Logic just falls on a lot of deaf ears for people. And he has his niche fan base. And that's cool. And I would say, don't turn your back on them, Logic. That's what I would say in this case. And don't make that Playboy Cardi stuff, because as garbage as it is, he has fans for a reason, because that's where he's at. And so it's coming off authentically trash. So for you to try to generate trash, it's just the same old logic of trying to be a wannabe and a put on. So what are your thoughts, man, on Logic basically saying he's going to dumb down his bars because there's no money in that? What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, the word that came to my mind is authenticity too. So you kind of took that right out of my mouth. Question: Logic's fan base, do they resonate with him more for what he does through the music that he typically makes, the stuff that he's naturally good at, or do they resonate with him more for turn up music? Like what does his audience gravitate more towards?
No, his fans mess with him as a person,
right?
And so when he puts out stuff, it's not they just like it because it's Logic, but kind of. Mm-hmm. But they also think he's really talented, and they think he's slept on, and they think he's good. So if he turns around and makes, Playboy Cardi type of stuff, I mean, I guess they would still be on board with that, but they've been following all of this super rappy stuff. So I don't know how he's going to fit. I don't know how they're going to feel about that. Most likely they're going to keep eating that up. But me personally, man, I think that the average Logic fan, they think he's dope and slept on.
But they think he's doped and slept on because he's this underground lyrical guy.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I mean, I don't know. I've been following this stuff obviously for a very long time, and typically when a rapper tries to pivot like that, you lose your fan base more than you keep them around.
I agree.
And he sounds like an identity crisis rapper to me. He sounds like somebody who wants to be more popular, but wants to do it by making the music he's always continued to make. But I think he's coming to the realization that those two things can happen. So he has to make a choice. Either continue to play in the sandbox that you've been in, or betray your fan base and try to do something different. But you kind of can't do that, because when you betray the fan base, then you have nothing to stand on. So I don't think it's a good idea for him to do this. Of course, it's his career. He can do whatever he wants. But I think overall, for me, this is just like unfortunate that artists within this genre have to make that kind of decision. The ones like him, who can't reconcile where they would like to be from a mainstream perspective with the kind of music they make. And far too many guys like him are in that boat where they can't make that reconciliation. And I feel for him. I do. Like, I'm not for or against Logic. You know, I'm indifferent towards him. Yeah, I wish success to anybody who's trying to do things by creating art that speaks to who they are as a person. And if that's what he's doing, whether it's my cup of tea or not, I commend him for that. But at the same time, I believe that this genre uniquely forces people like him to make that kind of decision. And it's unfortunate, because if you throw them in any other genre, you're not having to make that decision. At least not as much. And to your point, you talk often about how music in all areas has become watered down. There's another word you use. You say it's commercialized. Yeah, like a lot of it has become commercialized. And I agree with that. A lot of it has become neutered and commercialized. But I think this particular genre, this rap stuff, has been neutered and sanded down to its most unpure commercialized form more than any other genre, to the point where if you're a practitioner and you want to do something that speaks to who you are, you're literally making a decision. Do I continue to make what I want to make, or do I sacrifice that in lieu of trying to gain more mainstream success? And Taylor Swift doesn't have to make that decision. She can make her cookie cutter stuff that speaks to who she is and that comes from her heart, and she's still going to be selling out and doing whatever she wants into perpetuity. These country music artists, they don't got to make that call. They don't. I don't know if there's still such thing as pop music anymore. I'm not sure. All of these lines have been kind of blurred nowadays. But these pop music, country music, this indie stuff, rock and roll, if that's still a thing. They don't have to make that kind of reconciliation. It's only rappers who have to make that. And I think that that's a referendum on the state of the music and where the listenership is and where the industry is. I think the music industry has raped and pillaged hip hop more than any other genre. And to your point, it's been commercialized across the board. So every genre has been commercialized, none more so than this one.
I agree.
To the point that these guys, people like him, and again, I don't hate nor do I love Logic. To me, he just is. But what I will always champion is someone who, no matter what the odds are, you're going to continue to make the kind of art that speaks to who you are. And if people get it and resonate with you, those are going to be the people who ride with you. And everything else will just have to fall by the wayside. And I think it sucks that people in his position have to make that kind of concession. It's unfortunate, but this is where we are with this goofy music. Talking about rap and hip hop, that is this goofy ass music where they have to make these kinds of choices. It really does. I feel for the guy, because it kind of sounds like you're putting him in the Eminem category, where it's like he's technically good, but in terms of all of the other intangibles that come along with being an artist that resonates with you, he doesn't really hit that mark. But you wouldn't take away from him being technically good at rapping from a skill standpoint.
Correct.
Would you say that that's accurate?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah. And it just sonically it doesn't hit. I've given him tries.
Right.
So this isn't just I heard one or two songs. No, I really tried. Like there was times I would try to listen to an album. And I'm like, and I'm missing the whole point of what he's being said. My thing is that I don't identify what his topics are.
Yeah.
And I just don't. But there's fans who do. And so I thought it was cool, and I left him alone because I used to, get on the guy because I felt like he was trying to be in the game with everybody else. But I realized that you don't, bro. You have your own lane, and that's okay. And you got all of these fans that rock with you, and that's great. Just stay over there and do your thing. If you pop out because, you know what I'm saying, one of your songs, popped out here or there, that's great, man. Just keep doing your thing and just stay down with your fans, because those are the people that's going to keep you paid. But to me, this, unless his fans are asking for this, I don't know what's going on.
No, I doubt it.
Logic fans, let me know. Do y'all want to hear Playboy Logic? I don't know if I want to hear that. You know what I'm saying? Because, you really got to be on them Zans to make those types of sounds. You know what I'm saying? Cardi B is out of, not Cardi B, well, her too.
Yeah.
But Playboy Cardi is out of his mind, half the time. You can hear it. He's zooted as hell.
Yeah.
So, Logic getting into that boat, trying to make it sway. We'll see how it does. But, and again, to me, this was always Logic. Just not staying down with who he really is. And I felt like all these other albums where he wasn't making enough noise, bro, that's who you are. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But for him to go, I'm about to switch it up and start having fun. What does that mean, bro?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
know.
Yeah, I don't know either. But I'll give it a listen. I want to hear if it's a train wreck or not.
Yeah, I think his fans. Yeah, if there's any Logic fans or anybody who can chime in on this video, let us know in the comments. Do y'all want to see Logic painting his fingernails and getting these weird contact lenses and growing crazy hair and wearing dresses? Like, cause to sort of invoke the Playboy Cardi brand of music, I would imagine you're gonna have to embody some of this eccentricness. You're gonna be running around feminizing yourself, painting his fingernails, wearing dresses and skirts and kilts, growing crazy hair, and wearing contact lenses that make you look like you're transitioning. and so, like, if that's what he believes is going to get him, well, it will get him closer to a bag. Unfortunately, it will probably get him a bigger bag. But I think he's betraying his own personal art and his fans in the process,
I would say.
And it's a sad state of affair. It's a sad state of affairs to me that's the kind of reconciliation that people in his position have to make. And if it were me and I were faced with that prospect, I would switch industries. This is why I said what I said about D1. I'm not trying to tell D1 to stop rapping. I'm not. But D1 probably, when it comes to rapping, deals with too much internal conflict than what he deserves. He probably could contribute more to the world if he allocated the majority of his time and his effort and his heart to doing things other than rapping. Not that you put rap down entirely, but where do you focus the majority of your energy? Which is why I made that point that I made the last time we talked about D1. This dude might be in that same boat, bro. If push comes to shove and he realizes that fingernail painting and dress wearing and kilt wearing and weird contact lenses isn't where you want to go, because that's what's going to happen if you start making Playboy Cardi type music. If you realize that's too much for you, you might have to reserve yourself to switching it up. Go a different route. There's been plenty of artists who've done that, and they've been successful and made more money doing that. You know, I don't know the kind of stuff he talks about, but if he's as introspective as one might believe based on some of his sound bites, bro, maybe you need to go on the speaker circuit, write some books. I don't know. I'm just saying it's better that than selling your soul, which is what I think he'd be doing if he decided that he was just going to abandon what he had been doing up until this point in his career in order to make turn up ignorant music and go the Playboy Cardi route.
Yep.
And furthermore, if you're not cut from that cloth, it ain't gonna sound authentic when you make it. It's gonna sound fake.
But that's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying. And so he can do that. Whoever his producers are, whoever he works with, they can mimic any sound. And that's always been the knock with him, is that he never really picked his own, at least when I was hearing this stuff. He never really picked his own sound. He was either trying to sound like Drake. He was either trying to sound like Tory Lanez. He was either trying to sound like this. He was either trying to sound like that. It's like, who is Logic? Let me know who he is. But now he just said, you know what? Instead of all that stuff, now I pick one of these new guys that are doing all this other stuff, because he can mimic whoever. Trust me, he can. But the whole thing is, you know, is this you? Again. So we'll see what happens with this. We'll see what happens. Logic fans, like, you know what I'm saying? If y'all made it this far, I ain't trying to bash your boy. You know what I'm saying? But please let us know. Do y'all want to hear this from him? Y'all want to hear him go this route? Y'all want to see him do that? Me personally, as I've said on here many a time, Currency is my favorite rapper, man. I would consider him underground, even though a lot of people know of him. And he'll come out with 3 mixtapes in a year. You know, his fans can barely keep up with it, but they love him for it.
Yeah.
But he makes so much music, and he's always touring. He's always selling merchandise. He's always got to be a businessman on top of that. So Logic, if you're just making your little albums, doing your thing or whatever, you're selling your merch, you're going on these tours, be happy with that bag, because I know you got one. Just be happy with that bag and that lifestyle, and just keep being yourself. And I'm telling you, people will gravitate more towards you because you're being yourself, not because you're trying to be like whoever's popping, because that's corny.
It is.
So
it is. Yeah.
Good luck, bro.
It's very corny. It's so sad. This hip hop, rap music, whatever the hell you want to call it, it has been bastardized beyond recognition. It really has. And at some point, somebody is going to have to wake up and fix this stuff, because it is complete and utter trash at the moment. It doesn't even resemble anything close to an art form in its present state. So, you know, and that's his problem. He's trying to coexist within an ecosystem that has been stripped of any artistry while still trying to be an artist. Correct. So it's unfortunate, man. It really is. But this is where we are, and I hope he figures it out. So good luck to you, Mr. Logic.
Good luck, Logic. Sure.
Yeah. Speaking of art being bastardized, we have internet comedian Mark Phillips, who recently made comments talking about sketch comedy and the transition between traditional media and how it pretty much can only exist now on the internet because of the speed of it and all of that kind of stuff. So let's see. It's been a while since we talked about the comedy world, I would say. Mm-hmm. But these were interesting comments all the same. This says, RDC World's Mark Phillips says sketch comedy is better suited for the internet. That's the show now. Mark Phillips has some strong opinions on where sketch comedy stands today. The RDC World comedian recently appeared on the You Should Know podcast to give some insight on sketch comedy shows, saying that they cannot exist in today's world. When pitching his ideas to Hollywood executives, he noticed that nobody in the industry wanted to take a risk and make a whole new idea. Phillips said that execs often suggested he do a sketch show. If I write a comedy idea, a sketch show, they'll give it to me in like 10 minutes, Phillips said at around the hour and 9-minute mark, they'll be like, what about a sketch show? And I'm like, I don't want to do a sketch show. Phillips elaborated, explaining that sketch shows are better suited for online platforms like TikTok because of their faster pace. People don't understand what we need a sketch show for when we can make sketches on the internet. That's the show now. If you make a sketch show, we got to go get a Hollywood production. You take a whole year, and whatever we're about to make that's supposed to be relatable is gone within a year because it got to take all that time to come out. He added, that's why Saturday Night Live doesn't connect with the youth. The youth like speed. They like relevancy. So we'll go ahead and play a clip of Phillips's point here. Let me see. Okay, so we should be good here. So yeah, so this is Mark Phillips. He's big on like TikTok, Instagram with his sketches and whatnot, talking about how sketch comedy no longer can exist. Like, you know, it has to be on the internet now. It's all migrated to the internet.
Cannot exist in today's world, in my opinion. Like, they're not. Look at the movie industry. Like, the movie industry in itself is struggling for new ideas. That's why they always struggle, because nobody wants to take a risk and make a whole new idea. When you try a whole new original idea and somebody say, hey, that I ain't feeling it, you just broke. Like, no cap. Get fired. Whole room, y'all get out of here. You fired. And I'm like, damn. Like,
you're like, bro, I thought it was a great film.
Exactly. Like, they're like, we'll give. When I was going through pitch runs, like pitching my idea, like it was so many of the studios that was like, oh, we love that idea, but not gonna lie, we ain't trying it. It's too expensive. And I'm like, all right, bro. Like, all right, bro. But if I write a comedy idea, like a skit show, they'll give it to me in like that 10 minutes.
Yeah, really.
They'd be like, what about a sketch show? I'm like, no, I don't want no sketch show. Like, people don't understand what we need a sketch show for, and we can make sketches on the internet. That's the show now. If you make a sketch show, we gotta go get a Hollywood production. You take a whole year, and whatever we about to make that's supposed to be relatable is gone within a year, because it got to take all that time to come out. Because that's why Saturday Night Live doesn't like connect with the youth,
right?
Because the youth like speed. They like to just be like, let me stop giving y'all the secrets, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? They like speed. You know what I'm saying? They like relevancy and all that type of stuff. That's why like TikTokers, you know, they drop something and like people be like, oh, that's funny as hell, and they do be funny as hell,
and it's right then too. Then. And they're not having to wait months to just experience that thing that happened months ago.
And then on Hollywood, you need a structure too. So you like, all right, what's the structure of the sketch show, bro? Nobody give a damn about no structure. No,
just hit record,
And then you got to give 3 big ass Hollywood sketches, and like you have to do that every episode. And what if you just not feeling one of them sketches that episode? It's like on the internet, we can put out what we feel like. Oh, we like that, even if it doesn't perform as well as we wanted to do. Like, we wanted to do it, so we put that out.
I think those are pretty interesting comments. So let's see, where did I leave off here? Phillips elaborated. Okay, I read that part. To Phillips's point, SNL recently made a splash, making fun of TikTok influencers. That was essentially just TikTok on your TV screen, except it likely garnered more views on social media platforms than it did on TV. When it comes to addressing viral moments, RDC World produces comedic content nearly as quickly as the news cycle. Phillips and his team recently spoofed the moment Dwayne Wade received his Miami Heat statue last month, sparking a flood of internet jokes about how little the monument resembles the retired NBA star. So y'all can click on that to watch that sketch if you want. We'll go ahead and bypass that. But what do you think about what Phillips had to say about the state of sketch comedy and how you can't really do it because of, you know, all of these other factors and people not wanting to take risks and all of that good stuff?
I mean, again, bro, I think this speaks to the out of touchness that Hollywood currently has right now. I mean, they got all the money in the world, all the resources, and they could come out with viral sketches if they wanted to, with better production or whatever, just as fast. But they still have to do these grandiose productions. I guess it's money, you know, syndications or whatever, however they have to gear this thing together. But the model of whatever Hollywood runs itself off of, it's a dying off one with the speed of social media. So, I mean, I agree with Sir Phillips here, man. He's a funny dude, by the way, man. And so if he did have an idea, if I was in Hollywood and this guy and his team had an idea for something, I'm putting my money behind it. Like, I'm not going to limit him to sketch comedy or his team, because they have the pulse of the people right now. All the young kids loved him and his crew. And so if they came out with something akin to what we were talking about with Logic, just his people that mess with him enough will just give it a look-see. So it'll be worth the capital. But again, I don't know what kind of world Hollywood lives in. They're in this weird bubble where they are just doing rinse and repeat. They felt like this franchise worked, or this movie where the parents swapped with the child worked last time, so let's come out with a new parent swap movie, or or hey, this franchise in the early 80s, it blew up with its initial and its sequel. Hey, let's come out with a revamp one, a reboot, but this time the main character is a black lady. You know what I'm saying? And she has a trans daughter. And it's like, man, nobody wants to see any of this, man. We want original ideas. But, Mark said, hey, man, they feel as though that these original ideas are too much of a risk. So that explains why they keep falling into these same channels of, let's make a reboot. Let's just do this, or let's just recycle this old thing that already happened. And a variety show, a sketch comedy show has already happened, and there's really nothing wrong with that. But that's not the type of humor that these guys do. And they do up-to-date humor. That's what everybody that's popping right now on an internet comedy-wise. They're just making fun of relevant situations right now. There's a few people that just make fun of normal, everyday situations. But again, like he said, man, the way that these guys do it, I mean, they're running their own studio, if they will. They're making new skits every day or 2-3 times a week, So to mess with that flow, to try to make them into some commercialized cookie cut version of what they do, it'd be corny as hell. So yeah, man. So I agree with Sir Phillips here, man. Hollywood need to get with it if they want to keep the young people interested. But knowing them, bro, that's what I'm saying. I really feel like Hollywood, they just have their own thing, and you need to conform to what they're doing, as crazy as that sounds. And they got a formula, they got a recipe, and they want to stick to it, apparently. But if they want to capture these young people, they might want to get with the new wave of how things are getting put out, and that's immediately, basically direct to consumer. But what are your thoughts, sir, on Sir Phillips basically saying that, hey, man, the Hollywood game, or however they want to produce stuff, is not the way to go. The best way to do it is through social media. What are your thoughts, man?
I think he is. I think he's speaking Spanish to a program that only understands English. Like, I think he's speaking a language that, like, it's like trying to run trying to do ones and zeros on a machine that understands HTML. It's like it's not going to understand the code. Like, he's speaking a different language. The kind of comedy that he does isn't the kind of comedy that lends itself to being good on TV.
It doesn't.
So I feel like they're both speaking two different languages. Like, I grew up on sketch comedy and stand-up comedy. Sketch comedy and stand-up comedy work on television because it's more long form. That short form stuff doesn't work on television because you're going to need to occupy this 30 minutes or this hour. And these bits that these internet comedians be doing, I can't see myself sitting down to watch that for 30 minutes to an hour. I just can't. So I feel like he can say that, but at the end of the day, we're talking platforms that are speaking literally two different languages. It would literally be like me trying to put the CPU of a PC into a Mac. It's just literally there's a lack of compatibility. It's not going to work. Like, we're talking about two completely different operating systems. Like, one is iOS and the other is Android. The two cannot communicate with one another. So I am not surprised to hear him say that, Hollywood studios don't want to do this or that based on his ideas, because it does not work for the type of comedy that he does. Me personally, I prefer sketch and stand-up. I would imagine if he tried to do a stand-up special, it probably wouldn't be that funny. That is my opinion, but I'll be wrong on that if that's the case. But I don't see him doing a stand-up special where he's just giving jokes and punchlines for 50 minutes. That's not the kind of stuff he does. He does that TikTok, Instagram type. Like everything that you described is right on the money with the kind of stuff that he does. These skits, and I see it all the time on Instagram. These comedy skits. I got friends of mine, they be showing me stuff, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's kind of funny, but it's just not my cup of tea personally. It's just not. It's just not. But I won't take anything away from what he does because clearly it resonates with a lot of people who are more into consuming stuff on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. But he is right on one front. Hollywood, if you will, not taking risks, rehashing everything. Everything is a remake or a sequel or something that's already been done. There's a reason for that. And the reason for that is because comedy is too risky of a proposition because of the fear, quite frankly, that whoever's comedy you invest in might offend people. See, these studios, I said this before when we talked about that Heinz ad, the ketchup ad, that was like, people were complaining about it being racist. We are 4 years into corporate America caring about not offending people who aren't white. And in lieu of corporate America only recently caring about not offending people who are not white, there has been a swift overreaction to how art can toe the line of being artful, but also not being offensive. So what happens in the process is comedy ends up being affected by this because now comedy that was traditionally considered to be comedy is now offensive. And you can't offend people. It's too risky to offend people. So we're going to have to pass on your idea because we don't want to offend anybody. So a lot of these institutions that used to take gambles and green light projects that were comedic don't do it anymore because they don't know if that comedy is going to offend people. And they also want to know that despite it being neutered and being dry and not offending people, it'll also make money. And if you can't give them the perfect formula for being able to make money, but also not being offensive, they're not going to take the gamble. So where we are with comedy is stuff isn't being made anymore because studios and executives in Hollywood in general has decided that it's too risky a proposition because they don't want to run the risk of a faux pas or offending people or having to issue apologies because they offended this group of people because of this skit or this sketch or this thing that this comedian said. Because if a comedian has a show on Comedy Central and there's a bit on the show that offended women, for example, or black people, Comedy Central is going to have to suspend that person, cancel the show, and formally issue an apology saying that they're going to pledge to do better in the future and that they didn't mean to offend this group of people. And no one wants to go through that PR. It's annoying. So instead they decide to play it safe and they say, we'll just do remakes all day. As much as I love Chappelle's Show, I think Chappelle's Show is the greatest sketch comedy show ever made. For the 2 seasons that it was on, it was ahead of its time in terms of a lot of stuff that people talk about to this day. And that show came out 20 years ago. It would not get made today. Wouldn't. Clayton Bigsby would be too offensive. The racial draft would be too offensive.
Well, to be fair, I mean, I don't know when Key and Peele ended. But
that was like 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
This is radically different. Anything that happened before 2020 would not be made today.
Yeah, that's fair.
It wouldn't. So Clayton Bigsby, the racial draft, what was some of the other stuff he did? Black Bush. all of that stuff that, in my opinion, was hilarious and thought-provoking simultaneously that he did on that show, it's not getting made today. It's not, because someone somewhere is going to get offended. The original Kings of Comedy, that's not getting made today.
Oh no,
it's not. Louis C.K. show from the early 2000 teens, I think. None of this stuff is being made today, unless you're financing it yourself. But if you're depending on Hollywood backing and financing to get this stuff made, they're going to tell you no. It's too risky. It's not getting made. So until America figures out the right balance for what constitutes perceptively offensive content and what constitutes art and comedy, we'll be in this weird limbo where nothing's getting made, and it's just remake after remake with no originality, and the next remake is worse than the one that came before it. Everything now is worse than its predecessor. Everything is worse now. Everything is worse. So good luck to all y'all comedians out there. Comedians, to me, are in the same boat as true hip-hop artists. They're in the same boat. They're trying to figure out how to navigate the landscape in an industry that has determined that what they do no longer has a place. It sucks for some of these comedians, man. And a comic who has been trained to be a stand-up comic can't start doing internet skits. Just like Logic can't start doing Playboy Cardi rap. You know, it's a square peg in a round hole. It don't fit.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel for these guys, man, but I think that this is a greater referendum on these various industries. In my opinion, there needs to be a change. If that change will come, I don't think so. I think we are fully entrenched in SJW. Everything's offensive. Be sensitive. We're fully entrenched in that world where there is literally no line of demarcation between art and suggestive content. It's all been conflated. All of it now is the same thing. And art is suffering in the process, in my opinion. So yeah, if you're not one of these tweens who can do this internet skit stuff, you might want to figure out a plan B.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, man. So, you know, we'll see what happens, how these guys do things. I mean, these guys make so much money off of endorsements, little side things that they do. I'm pretty sure their channels do pretty damn well. So I think they do good enough to make their own thing, man. And I would like to see these guys make their own movie or make whatever they are trying to pitch to these studios.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see these guys try to make it all off the muscle and make a direct to consumer kind of thing, because they know the people's gonna be buying it hook, line, and sinker, and they'll eat it up. And so yeah, man, I really think that these guys shouldn't be pitching this stuff because they clearly don't see the value in these young men. I mean, if I had the money, I'll invest in it because everything that they put out goes viral. And there's a couple of TikTok people out there that, you know, people are dying to see in something, and then they don't get a call, you know. So it was one dude I saw, he in some type of Tubi movie or whatever. It's like, yeah, man, people are gonna watch it just because he's in it. So yeah, man. And if you've seen the quality of Tubi movies, y'all can drop something on Tubi. It can be ironically cringe. It can be shot like that. You know what I'm saying? But y'all still got y'all idea out there. And so with y'all limited budget, y'all limited everything, y'all can still pull it off. So I would ask y'all to do that with that, or anybody else out there. Honestly, man, the direct-to-consumer game has gotten a lot more easier. I mean, if you've seen some of those Tubi movies, and it's like some of the stuff, like you can actually see like the cameraman like in reflection of mirrors and other things. He's just holding up an iPhone. Some people shooting them Tubi movies on iPhones. So ain't no big studio, ain't no big budget. You just gotta have a grind and a know-how and put your work in. So yeah, man. So good luck, Mr. Phillips and the RDC crew. I would like to see these young men make it without sacrificing anything as far as creativity or anything else like Chappelle had to deal with. And yeah, man, y'all channels are already popping. I would just try to do something off that and direct the consumer, man. See how that goes.
Yeah, I feel for all creatives. That's who I feel for. I feel for every creative who's trying to carve a niche for themselves, and they're having to figure out how to navigate what is an increasingly tricky landscape for all creatives. I feel for them. I really do. And, I can sit up here all day and talk about my personal brand of comedy and what I like. But at the end of the day, you working hard and you have a niche and you're good at it. Who am I to take that away from you? So internet skit comedy may not be my thing, but I want all of these people to do well and succeed. They seek out Hollywood studios because the security of their infrastructure and resources is something that is very appetizing even now, still. Because they've got the money, the resources, they've got the capital, they've got the investors, they've got the directors and producers and engineers, they've got that infrastructure that can elevate your art and take it to the next level. But what you have to concede possibly by going that route is the integrity of your art. Because what's going to happen is Hollywood and these studios, they're going to neuter what you're doing. They're going to neuter it. They're going to neuter it. They're going to neuter it because they would rather play it safe because of the climate that we live in. And that's what's so unfortunate. And art, in my opinion, has really been a casualty in this ongoing conflict between perceptively suggestive content and material and ideas and actual offensiveness. And art has really suffered as a result. It's unfortunate. It really is. But I feel for all these creatives.
And that's a good point. They so worried about being offensive about all this other stuff, but they just throw all this sex stuff in your face. It's a sex scene in every damn thing. And they don't care about that. That's not offending nobody, right?
No, because that's not identity. That's not identity politics. That's why. Yeah. They'll give you all of the boobies and they'll give you all of the boobies and booties and now male full frontal nudity. Like, I see more male full frontal nudity in movies now than I've ever seen. Ever. Which in my opinion is clearly a retaliation towards the Me Too era. Clearly. I don't give a damn what anybody says. That is Hollywood and these filmmakers saying women were oppressed for so long, dealing with these circumstances of having to be nude and show everything. We're gonna make y'all men do it now too. I don't care what anyone says. That's the reason why you're seeing that more. It's in direct response to the Me Too era, and which takes me back to my central point. Everything you're seeing now on TV and streaming is some form of identity, something.
Yes, contrived.
Yeah. It just makes something that's good, but you have to have the identity message while not being offensive, but still being funny. It ain't gonna work. And the last thing that I'm gonna say, and I'm done with this one, and I've said this before, even my own sensibilities can be offended, but I'm going to accept that as, I'm chalking it up to the game. And I used to hate, I brought her up before, but Lisa Lampanelli, I can't stand her comedy. I can't stand it. Her whole routine when she was in her heyday, and you can throw that other chick in there too, Amy Schumer. I used to watch their stand-up specials. Pretty much their whole bit is, I'm an overweight white woman, so I'm going to date black men because black men will take me because the white men won't because I'm overweight. But, I'm still white, so let me date these black men because they'll take me. That was their whole shtick.
Yeah.
As a black guy, I didn't like that. I'm not a fan of that kind of joke. But am I going to call up to Comedy Central and bitch and complain on Twitter talking about get rid of that's her brand of comedy. It is what it's meant to do. It's meant to invoke these kinds of observations. But in this era of all of this identity BS, which started literally 4 years ago, everything has to be tiptoeing and delicate, and and art suffers. It's a shame. So I really feel for creatives. I want these RDC people. I want them to get their own show on whatever Netflix or Hulu, wherever the hell, Comedy Central even. I want them to, but because of the way things are currently constructed, I just don't see it happening, and it's a shame. It's a shame.
Stay independent, y'all. Y'all will make a classic. The streets will love it forever if y'all did it. So and reinvest some of that money that y'all out here grinding to get, and I'm sure it'll pay off, man.
Yeah. Go make your own studios. Yeah, go and create your own studios.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Shouts out to Mr. Phillips, man. Y'all good luck over there, man, in RDC world, bro.
You
and shouts out to all of the artists and creatives and comedians, man. I feel for y'all.
Stay 10 toes down, y'all. It ain't easy out here, man. It is not easy.
Now we have Ice Cube unmuting to talk about how there is a contentious relationship between the Big Three and the NBA. He's gone on record talking about something similar to this in the past. So this is pretty much a continuation of that. But Ice Cube is pretty much gone on record talking about the icy reception that the NBA has had towards his Big Three league. And he wants it to be known that they can do whatever they want. That the NBA does not own basketball, and that despite the fact that the NBA controls a lot, well, not just the NBA, but all these major leagues, they control a lot of sports media. It's not going to stop his train from rolling, and he's going to continue to do what he can to further flesh out Big Three and make it as good as it possibly can be. So this says Ice Cube on Big Three's relationship with NBA. They don't own basketball. Ice Cube is reminding fans and a certain league that basketball is not owned by anybody. The remarks came amid a larger discussion with Complex's chief content officer, Noah Callahan Beaver, for the latest episode of Idea Generation, which has previously welcomed guests including Big Sean and Tremaine Emory. According to Cube, who first launched his own Big Three League in 2017 with co-founder Jeff, I'm going to butcher this, Kowatnitz, the NBA is threatened by the venture for several reasons. He also sees the larger sports media landscape as often favoring the NBA. We knew we were going to get hate from the NBA, but we never knew how much sports media was basically ran by the NBA. We thought sports media was pretty much independent, but we had all this resistance to our clips and highlights and showing what the Big Three is doing. You don't see enough of that because of the NBA stranglehold on a lot of sports media. In Cube's opinion, the Big Three's 3-on-3 gameplay and all-around looser vibe makes it more fun for in-person fans and at-home viewers alike when compared to NBA games. Getting more specific on his theories as to why he believes the NBA isn't a fan of what he's doing with the Big Three, Cube speculated that being the first to incorporate certain elements into the game has rubbed the league the wrong way. They didn't think of that, and we changed the game without asking permission. They probably didn't want us to do the 4-point circle. They probably hate that we was the first to embrace mental health, allow CBD use, have women head coaches. We beat them all to those punches, so they probably think they own basketball and that nobody should change rules without consulting with them. I'm just speculating, but they don't own basketball. So for more on that, we'll go ahead and play this clip here of Ice Cube articulating these very points. So here's what Ice Cube had to say about the icy reception that the Big Three has received from the NBA.
I mean, we knew we were going to get hate from the NBA, but we never knew how much sports media was basically ran by the NBA. We thought the sports media was pretty much independent and, had all this resistance to our clips and, highlights and showing what the Big Three is doing. You don't see enough of that because of the NBA stranglehold on a lot of sports media.
Why do you think they're so threatened by the Big Three?
They didn't think of it. And we changed the game without asking permission. They probably didn't want us to do the 4-point circle. They probably hate that we was the first to embrace mental health, allow CBD use, have women head coaches. We beat them to all those punches. So they probably think, they own basketball and that nobody should change rules without consulting with them. I'm just speculating, but they don't own basketball
anymore.
Well, kids don't say, Mom, I'm going out to play NBA, They say I'm going out to play basketball. So basketball is not owned by anybody, but they don't believe that.
Nice. All right. So what do you think about that? What do you think about how Ice Cube's interaction with the NBA has been thus far with the Big Three?
I mean, I feel as though that, he's been a great ambassador for the game he created. The subtle things that he's done as far as introducing, like he said, the 4-point line, amongst other things. And he spoke on other parts in that interview where he was basically getting at that, everything from the ground up, man, all the logos from the various teams, the different types of court styles, like all of that stuff had to be built, that whole infrastructure, he had to do it from, the ground up. And he's got a good product going. It may not be, out here generating billions of dollars, but for somebody out here that created a sports league, man, he's the only one out here that can actually say that he did it. And yeah, it's only 3-on-3, but 3-on-3 is legit. If you play 3-on-3, those can be some decent runs. So I like the premise behind it. I like the fact that retired players can come in there and go get some. Shouts out to Jaylen Brown. He came out there and showed some love. An actual player came and played. So I'm all here for it. I would see that Fox Sports, they would show some highlights in the morning. When it first came out, I was psyched about that. I don't watch Fox Sports anymore, so I don't know how much they still show stuff like that occasionally, Big Three highlights. But I still understand 100% what he may be experiencing, because these media rights deals that the NBA has, or the NFL has, or the college football has. I mean, this stuff is ironclad. And it's a lot of money on the table. And I can really see why they would box people out so they can get as much as they can possibly get. So I don't know what kind of media deals he has or not allowed to get for being somebody that's independent and challenging the NBA, which is not. It's a completely different game. So I don't even see why they see it as competition on that plane. One can theorize why they see it as competition, but as far as, him doing his own thing and just wanting to have a basketball league, to me, it all makes sense. And I'm proud of all the work that he's done put into this. I'm glad it's still out here and operating. The XFL done got launched and collapsed and launched and collapsed. I don't know how many damn times. But the Big Three, it got started and it's still rolling, man. So, yeah, man. So I would say that the NBA, they want to keep themselves and they want to keep that monopoly that they've had on the game for as long as they had. And they don't want anything to come up and steal any of its little crumbs from these media deals. At least that's what I can see initially. But what are your thoughts, sir, on Sir Ice Cube? Basically saying that, the NBA is still throwing some shade towards the Big Three's way.
Yeah, I think the NBA believes that it has dominion over basketball in America for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, really the world, because other countries' best players come here to play in the NBA during the season.
That's true.
So they believe they have dominion over basketball worldwide. So I can definitely see why they would perceive the big three as competition, because it's the only place in which basketball is played that people pay attention to it, that they have no control over in any kind of way. Because if you think about it, college basketball is marginal at this point. Pretty much no one watches college basketball until the tournament. Mm-hmm. But the marquee college basketball players eventually go into the league. So you can pretty much say the NBA has dominion over college basketball. The G League is an NBA developmental league. So those players are signed to NBA franchises. So the NBA has dominion over that. The world teams and the FIBA teams and the Olympic teams are all NBA players. So the NBA has dominion over that. So, the only thing the NBA doesn't really have dominion over basketball-wise is Big Three. And even if they aren't directly competing with one another because they're not on the same playing field, because they don't have that dominion, they may nevertheless see it as an issue because they don't have a stake in it in some kind of way. So I can definitely get that. But the reason why I love the Big Three is because of what it represents via Ice Cube's ownership. I've used this term before to describe Ice Cube and to describe Elon Musk. Like, the status quo is already established. So if you're not a part of the in crowd, if you're not a part of those boards of directors, and if you don't have those stock options already, you're going to be on the outside looking in, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. If you're not a part of the network, the good old boy network, you're not going to infiltrate the cabal and become successful. So the only way that you can become successful is by creating something of your own and being willing to be a disruptor in those marketplaces. And the way that you understand that you're successfully disrupting the marketplace is if the status quo has a problem with it. If the NBA really felt as though the Big Three was not a threat, they wouldn't be, issuing embargoes on the marketing of the Big Three on their media partner channels like ESPN, for example. There's a reason why you never see Big Three highlights on ESPN. And the reason is ESPN is a media partner with the NBA. And I would imagine that there's some stipulation in that deal which says if it ain't NBA, no professional basketball gets talked about on your networks. I'm assuming. It doesn't take a rocket science to make that assumption. They wouldn't feel the need to make those stipulations if they felt as though the Big Three was just this little thing over in the corner that didn't pose some kind of a challenge, which says to me that Ice Cube is successfully disrupting the apple cart. And that's the only way that you're going to get ahead out here. You're not going to walk up in any of these traditional establishments as a non-good old boy affiliate and wreck shop. They're not going to allow it. You're either going to be an employee or you're going to not be involved at all. So if you're unwilling to be an employee because you want to own something for yourself, you have to start your own thing. And you have to be willing to be a disruptor. So I like what Ice Cube is doing because he's a disruptor. And people have their opinions about Elon Musk. People don't like his politics. I don't care about none of that stuff. The guy became what he became by being willing to be a disruptor in a marketplace that was already crowded with status quos. And he was just he made it happen. People thought he was loopy. You're going to build rocket ships? That's a crazy idea until it wasn't anymore. So I hope he institutes a 4-point line, a 5-point line, a 6-point line. Whatever he has to do. During the summertime, I watch Big Three. I watch it because I love watching old, washed-up NBA players still play basketball.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know nothing about it.
It's fun. To me, it's fun. It's fun. Yeah. Like I've been getting a kick out of watching Mario Chalmers and Swaggy P play basketball. Washed-up guys, they can't play in the league no more, but they'll do 3-on-3. And Joe Johnson, by the way, killing it. Joe Johnson still be out there in Big Three looking like he can still play in the league. Like that's how dominant he looks in Big Three. But of course, I know he can't, but that's how good he still looks, individually. But, I think what the Big Three symbolizes more than anything else is what one who exists outside of the status quo needs to do in order to be able to place a foothold within a highly saturated marketplace. And the way that you do it isn't by creating the best resume and applying for a job, because they're not going to let you get but so high. Ice Cube would never be the commissioner of the NBA. He would never be vice president of basketball operations for an NBA franchise. He's not a part of the network. He wouldn't make it in there. Mm-hmm. But he can create his own league and run it the way he wants to run it there and be the owner there and do what he needs to do. And if the NBA wants to holler foul because the big three exists and they want to create all of these injunctions and embargoes on the way that the league is marketed with their media partners, it shows that him being a disruptor in that capacity is working to a certain degree. So I hope it continues.
Yeah.
And furthermore, just to say, I'm an NBA fan. Yeah, so, I'm not going to sit up here saying Big Three is better or I'm watching Big Three and not. I'm watching the league. I'm watching the league. But what I appreciate is a person willing to be a disruptor in a saturated marketplace that has told him he has no place in this unless he's willing to play ball. I like that. And I think that rogues willing to be disruptors are better for everybody and not a detriment, I would say.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with this. We'll see if he can actually tap into the Division II or bottom tier NCAA guys that don't get drafted, the guys that aren't actually making it into the G League, to see if he can actually get some new guys that are in there, to some fresh legs or what have you, because there's guys that end up playing overseas or just end up not playing at all because of politics or who knows, and he never made it, but the guy can hoop out his mind. So those guys are always around, and they're not always washed up NBA players. So I would like to see a young crop, a draft, and see how that stuff goes, and just take it to the next level, man. And it might start off with 3-on-3, but it might expand, and that's probably what their problem is.
Yeah,
and they don't want to see this expand and then ultimately challenge, because there's only one pie, and the whole pie was theirs. And who cares if it's one slice? That's what they would say. Oh, who cares? It's just one little baby slice. You know what I'm saying? Oh, hey, man, it's just a crumb over here. Who cares, NBA? Let them eat. And it was like, no, it's only one pie here. And we always had this whole pie.
Yep.
And I don't care if it's just one bite. He can't have none. And so that's probably what all of this stuff is, because at some point, he's going to be taken out bigger than a bite and bigger than a slice and bigger than a quarter. And they don't want to see that eventually happen. So, they want to maintain their monopoly because, he started this league, but I'm sure he's going to want to pass this on to someone so they can keep carrying this out and making this a thing that Ice Cube created.
Exactly.
Yeah. So he don't want to just do this as a hobby. He's really in this, and they see that, and they see that as a challenge. Mm. So, hey, keep rocking on, Cube. Yeah. I support this, man. Yeah. And I would like to see this get taken to the next level, bro. I'm here to support. And yeah, man, I'm down for this, man. And him trying to pull the whole Caitlyn thing, I'm not mad at that either. So whatever he try to do, if he has this whole thing where it is actually a co-ed type of thing going on, you know what I'm saying? Because this girl can actually cook like that. That might be a thing. So, keep trying to push the envelope, bro. The NBA is becoming a watered down product. Shit, man. They're scoring more points, but it's hard to watch. So, man, rock on, Q. I'm down for this.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. All it takes is him being able to fleece one Caitlin Clark or one Bronny James even. Like, what if Bronny James had said, instead of going to the G League, I'm going to just go play in Big Three? You know, like because Bronny, you know, predictably got demoted down to the G League because he's not a pro, as Jaylen Brown accurately said. But you know, what if Bronny James goes to the big three instead, or you know, Caitlin Clark or Juju or one of these other incredibly popular people in college or on the developmental stage? Like, what if Cooper Flag, for example, decides that instead of going to college for a year, because I think Cooper Flag committed to Duke, I believe.
Yeah, he's that dude.
So like, yeah, so like, what if
busting him up too, bro? He
Nah, he's good for real. He's good.
Yeah.
But like, what if Cooper Flag is like, instead of going to Duke, I'm gonna just go play in the big three for a year? That's going to a certain extent, it's going to completely wreck college basketball, which is for all intents and purposes a minor league farm system for the NBA, same as college football with the NFL. So it's going to, you know, and then that will by extension somewhat cannibalize the NBA too. So it just takes one of those fleeces. And who's to say that when this fleece happens, who knows? So, you know, that's the whole thing, man. It always takes one. But good luck. I just like the fact that he is a disruptor, that he's willing to be a disruptor. I like disruptors in the marketplace because you can't let establishments continue to think that they can just get fat and happy into perpetuity without being challenged, because that's what creates monopolies. That's what creates, you know, these, you know, too big to fail corporate establishments, which are just not good for the individual or for everybody else who wants to consume any kind of media or product or anything else. Monopolies are only good for the establishment. They're not good for everybody else. So,
agreed.
Shouts out to Cube, man.
Skr.
And now we are going to talk about DJ Academic's thoughts on sports media, and basically saying that sports media is not what it used to be. It's not very good anymore. It's watered down. That, you know, it's not really about. No one really goes to traditional sports media anymore. Everyone is just checking out, you know, players, individual shows and programs themselves, because that's where the real insight and the real meat and potatoes is. And he even cited Skip Bayless as like sort of the impetus for the downfall of traditional sports media, ESPN, and the like. So this says DJ Academics blames the downfall of ESPN on Skip Bayless. As DJ Academics watches rap star turned podcaster Cameron's sit down interview with Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, he claims Skip Bayless is responsible for ESPN's alleged downfall in sports media. Big Act claims ESPN or Skip Bayless did not conduct the Tyson Paul interview. In a clip of him commenting on the interview, Act mentioned Skip saying ESPN just completely fall into shit. And I'm going to be honest with you, the fall of Skip Bayless was the pivot sports media to podcast, because I'm shocked this face-off didn't take place on ESPN. DJ Academics elaborated. I listen to Gilbert Arenas and I listen to usually former players sitting around nothing that resembles a sports desk. They're just chilling, talking about not necessarily play-by-play, but they're talking about it in a barbershop sense. But it's way more engaging. I listen to Cameron and Mace talk about sports, tell their own personal stories, and relate them to the everyday man. Nobody wants to sit around with the highlights playing around them. It's like, yo, watch the games on your own time. You got Cameron with chains on. Skip Bayless ended Undisputed, his long-running Fox Sports talk show, in August. The show featured an original theme song by Lil Wayne. During the show's 8-year run, Wayne appeared many times. Popular sports analyst Shannon Sharp was Bayless's former co-host before leaving for ESPN's First Take with Stephen A. Smith in 2023. Skip and Stephen A. were also former co-hosts before they split in 2016. The two have discussed the breakup several times over the years. So here is Ack speaking on the downfall of sports media and how it's all Skip Bayless's fault.
Come on now.
Come on, guy. You can do it. All right, let me hit the refresh.
Refresh.
That's
Yeah,
always
man.
that always happens with these Twitter embeds. All right, here we go.
Yeah, man. That's your boy Elon.
Completely fall into shit. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like these days, when it comes to sports, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I think the fall of Skip Bayless was the pivot of sports media to podcasts. Like, I listen to Gilbert Arenas, and I listen to usually former players just sitting around, nothing that looks like a sports desk. They're just chilling, but they're talking about not necessarily play by play. They're talking about sports like in a barbershop sense, but it's way more engaging, right? I listen to Cameron and Mace talk about sports and tell their own personal stories, and you know what I mean, kind of related to the regular man. And this is why I think that, you have somebody like Stephen A. He's been pushing his podcast a lot, and you see him a lot more commenting on, politics. I think he wants to get to late night eventually, but it does feel like sports media is kind of dead, bro. Like, nobody wants to just sit around with highlights playing in the background and whatever. It's like, yo, watch the games on your own time if you want to watch it, or just come watch our conversation about the game. And I do think that Cam and Mace are a part of that, because I'm shocked that this face-off didn't take place at ESPN. Like, back in the day, could you imagine this not being at ESPN? Could you imagine some of these boxing guys not being a part of it? Yo, it's Cameron Giles with the jury, my nigga.
Same question to you.
All right, interesting stuff there from a remarkably lucid DJ Academics. So what do you think of what he said there? Do you think that do you chart the fall of Skip Bayless to the fall of sports media, or do you agree with him in general that sports media is dead? What do you make of what he said there?
I mean, I guess you can probably make that correlation as far as, Skip Bayless's decline is also just a symbol of the decline of viewership overall with these sports gas bags. Yeah, dude. So the likes of him and Jason Whitlock or who else? Stephen A.
Rob Parker
and them. Now, Stephen A., he knows how to go viral. He's trying to transcend, as academics mentioned. That's why he's got his own podcast. Skip had his own podcast, but Skip ain't it. He never was. He always needed the talent to carry him across the finish line. So Stephen A., I don't want to call him box office, but the guy knows how to get clicks and views. So he knows what the hell he's doing when it comes to that. So I would say he's going to survive this transition because he knows how to make headlines. Same thing with Shannon Sharp. As much as people want to throw dirt on his name, as much as he gets himself into scandals, the guy is box office. Everybody knows Shannon Sharp at this point. Women who've never watched a lick of football, they know damn well who Shannon Sharp is. And so he knows how to carry himself. He knows how to do his career. So at this point, the traditional forms of sports media, yeah, I agree, man. It is a dying format, but it's not because, well, it definitely is because of Skip Bayless. He definitely has something to do with it, with all this debate crap. And hot take after hot take garbage. It went away from analyzing the game and having actual sports conversation to what's the most clickbaity thing I can say, what's the hottest take I can give, what's really going to knock people off their square whenever I'm talking about this athlete. And it just became all sensationalism, and it went away from the game that we were sitting there watching ourselves. So right now, all those other shows that are still floating around on Fox Sport, on ESPN, whenever I am catching a clip on TikTok or something, it's just hot takes. It's just hot takes. It's just saying something that's going to rage bait me into a comment. And it's like, look, bro, just talk sports, dude. So I can listen to your boy Cowherd. I can listen to him, but not so much because he can get a little witchy-jiggy too. But I would rather listen to him talk because he still somewhat keeps it sport, even though he's a jackass at time on purpose, for the clickbaitiness. So I think the contrast to what he was talking about with Gilbert Arenas and what Cameron and them are doing is they just talking about the game and they being normal about it. They'll say something spicy here or there, especially Gil, but for the most part, man, they just talking about the sport itself. And it's not this media machine, hot take, fake ass, non-authentic conversations that's going on. So I think the people are moving more towards authenticity and less away from these dinosaur machines that are just stuck in their ways. So yeah, I tend to agree with this. And I think Skip's decline and ultimate fall off is a reflection of that because he had the game in a chokehold 10 years ago. So what are your thoughts, sir, on DJ Academics weighing in on sports media saying that, hey, man, it's pretty much dead nowadays? Do you agree with that, sir?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I don't really watch any shows on ESPN anymore. Now that if I think about it, I'll put First Take on because it's just a part of my morning routine. But in terms of the shows that I actually pay attention to, it's like two of them. So his overall point that sports media is dead, I kind of agree with that. Whether it's Skip Bayless's fault though, that's where I don't know. I don't know that I agree with that. Like I think Skip Bayless is the godfather of sports opining in the gas bagging form. I think him and Stephen A. Smith together, the renaissance, not the renaissance, but the peak was First Take when it was him and Stephen A. Smith on First Take. That was the peak. I believe that it was when it was Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith doing First Take together that other networks started to copy that formula at that point. Agreed. Because prior to them, there were debate shows. There was PTI, for example, but nobody was really copying that. I don't think that started to get copied until Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless. So I think that both of them together ushered in this era of sports opining, gas bagging. But I don't think that Skip Bayless is responsible for it falling off. I think people deciding to create their own platform for themselves so that they're not underneath the yoke of corporate ESPN and Disney, right? That's one of the reasons why. And then the other reason why it fell off is putting people on TV who aren't good on TV. Like if you don't put talented people on, your product is going to suffer. So when you, for example, when First Take decides, because Stephen A. Smith runs ESPN apparently, when First Take decides that it's going to have a better show by getting rid of Max Kellerman and replacing him with random people like Jeff Saturday and Dan Orlovsky, you made the show worse. And look, I'm not taking anything away from those people, but Kellerman is better at television than them, in my opinion.
Agreed.
So watching First Take with Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman going back and forth was more engaging than looking at Stephen A. Smith and a different person every other segment, every other day. Like I'm less engaged. It's less interesting to me. You made the show worse. When you as a network decide that you're going to lay off people like Max Kellerman, you're making your shows worse. When you get rid of interesting people, you're making your stuff worse. No disrespect, but NBA, the NBA show, you're making all of these strategic decisions. You want to downsize people like Tim Legler, for example, and give people like Kendrick Perkins more airtime. Look, Kendrick Perkins is what he is. Is he great on TV? In my opinion, no. Paul Pierce, is he great on TV? No. Tracy McGrady was better at TV than Paul Pierce. I don't know what happened that made Tracy McGrady not be on ESPN anymore. But when you downgrade your on, it's going to lead in a decline. It's going to lead to a decline in the product. The shows, in my opinion, on ESPN are worse because the people that they put on TV are, in my opinion, are worse at TV. So Fox, in my opinion, is better, not because they have better segments or better concepts for shows, but because they have more people who are better at TV than them. So as much as Nick Wright gets on my nerves, he's better at TV than Mike Greenberg, or some of these other people. As much as as much as Emmanuel Acho might be a little high and mighty from time to time with his highfalutin sports opinions. He's better at TV to me than Chineo Gumakwe.
I don't know, bro.
No, he is.
I'd rather listen to Malik Andrews talk than your boy.
I wouldn't.
Acho.
I
can't stand Acho.
I can't. I don't like any of those. The Chinea Gumakwe and Richard Jefferson. They need to get rid of that whole thing. The whole thing, they need to blow it up. Now, Fox does have its lowlights. I can't watch Speak. It's a terrible show. Keyshawn Johnson is terrible on TV. Paul Pierce is terrible on TV. Poor Joy Taylor is trying to hold it together because she's the only one on that show who's good on TV. But Paul Pierce talking football is horrendous. Keyshawn talking basketball is horrendous. And then they put Michael Irvin on there, who is what he is. He's just a character. But if you put people on who aren't good on TV, your product is going to suffer, is my overall point. So at that point, yeah, I can understand why people who are already cord cutters to begin with and aren't watching cable anyway are going to hit up YouTube or Instagram and watch Cameron and Mace, because at least they're entertaining and engrossing on TV. Their sports opinions might not be as highfalutin as Stephen A. Smith's, but at least they're going to be entertaining on TV or your computer screen. So I get it. I get it. Same thing with Gil and his show. I can understand why people gravitate towards that, because they have the kinds of conversations, even if I disagree with them, that you and I would have about sports.
Agreed. And
they speak on it in the same tone. And so I get it. Whereas when you're under the yoke of corporate Disney and ESPN and Fox, there are certain things you can't say. There are certain opinions you can't have. And if you want to go out on a limb and express those opinions, here comes the fine and the suspension. But when you're on and the apology, right? But when you're on your own show, you don't have to be contrite. You don't have to issue an apology. You're not going to get suspended for something that's not really that offensive. You're not. You still going to be able to show up to work tomorrow. So all the way around, I can understand how the dynamics in play necessitate the fall of traditional sports media, and how putting people who are bad on TV also necessitates the fall of sports media. But when it comes to traditional sports media, if you put better people back on TV, it'll be better. But they won't do that because I guess they think they're too big to fail. And I guess in their minds, the more Kendrick Perkins, the better. But I'm turning the channel.
Now, and I was a big fan of former athletes coming on and getting a segment here, getting a segment there. But I really felt like sports journalism needed to be left to people who were trained on media, like their whole life. They were training their whole time to get here, and those were the people that could carry these types of conversations or talk about the game or what have you. But then have the players who actually played as guests and have them come in. And if they prove themselves whenever they got that spot up shot, that, hey man, this person deserves to be on the team, then fine. I've seen guys like Jason Kelsey, for instance. I mean, Hall of Famer, that's great. He's a Kelsey, that's stupendous. He's a cool guy, I'm sure of it. he has a podcast show where he's doing, numbers over there with his, with his brother, but he sucks at TV. Like he just retired. Like, how much media training did he get to sit here and actually be live on TV? Like,
none.
That's what I'm saying. So them just dropping people in there just drives down the quality of things. Like, have these, I'm sorry, bro, go in the chamber and learn how to do this for real. But they don't do that, and then they just throw anybody out there, and they just started doing any damn thing. That's what they did with Kendrick Perkins. Kendrick Perkins, just get up there and just tap dance for us real quick, and he'll do whatever they ask him to do. Say whatever the hell. It don't have to make sense. Just say something. And that's what Kendrick Perkins, the whole ESPN damn crew. So I really think, no, I don't think that Skip Bayless himself is the fault. I don't think that. But I do think that his fall was a reflection of, well, A, Shannon Sharpe leaving, but also B, that he couldn't even stay afloat, because if Shannon Sharpe left him and he had no Shannon Sharpe or Stephen A. Smith 10 years ago, the market was still wherever it was at for him to still be floating around. But there's so many options now that are out there that are direct to consumer, and that, like we mentioned, there's just a lot more down earth and chill. So I don't think Skip Bayless himself is the reason why it collapsed or is falling, but I think his fall is like a benchmark where we can go, see, this is where it started to take its turn, for like more people are tuning into this type of stuff than the traditional forms of media, because if there were no other forms, people would have had no choice but to sit there and listen to Skip like they did 10, 15 years ago. So yeah, I'm glad there's other options out there. I'm glad you guys log on to the Caucus Approach whenever we decide to talk about sports or whatever here. We be chilling and stuff, and I think people like the chilling conversations over the gas baggy hot takes garbage that's going on nowadays. On top of the censorship and stuff that you said too, man. Because yeah, man, you gotta appease. You gotta stroke egos. Everybody's awesome. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody, there's an excuse for everything. I can't stand listening to them. And they cape for the players so much. Like, I was trying to watch, this was like trying to watch JJ Redick call NBA games. I couldn't stand it. And the only thing he would sit there and do is cape for the players. Oh, yeah, blah, 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 and just say the dumbest stuff. But, so I can't, none of it, bro. I now mute. I don't even listen to announcers. Unless it's, I mean, I can even listen to, what's his name? Bream. I can't even listen to Bang no more, because he be on air with goofballs now. So the only person that I would listen to is Kirk Herbstreit. And what's that guy name? Golly, it escapes me. Is it Kevin Hartman or something like that? Something Hartman. Got his name. Kevin Harlan. Goddamn it. Kevin Harlan. He is the man.
He's a play-by-play guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll listen to him call any damn game.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So yeah, man, I'm with it. I'm with the shift, man, into podcasting. I'm with
No, yeah, I can totally understand it. I'm still a traditional media guy.
Yeah.
So, outside of viral clips, I'm not gonna see what Gil said unless it shows up on my viral feed, or I'm not gonna see what Cam and May said unless it shows up on my viral feed. But I understand the shift. I do, because it's just become so watered down, and there's just a lot of forces at work diminishing what used to be regular sports media. And I think the two main things are people who produce content no longer want to be under the yoke of a corporate structure where you have to abide by a million different rules, and you can't say this and you can't say that, and this is offensive, and this you got to apologize for, and all of this other BS. So they just go and have their own platform. And then also just, not putting people who are good in media, as you said, on television. That's an important thing. Like, yeah, you can't take somebody fresh off of retirement and stick them on TV, but that's what these networks do because they're just trying to cash in on the cachet of these people's names. And whether they're actually good at the job or not is secondary.
Right.
And honestly, I think it pays off, unfortunately, because I think most people are just like, ooh, Jason Kelsey's on TV. I only think it's the people like me and you who are sitting around saying Jason Kelsey's not actually good for television.
Yeah, no, we're hating that.
Yeah. We're I think we're in the minority. I think we're in the minority on that, but I'm with you. I do, but I'm with you on that. I do think that that's the reason why it has declined, why it continues to decline, and I totally get it. I'm gonna just start my own channel. I completely see a world where if Stephen A. Smith doesn't become the highest paid person at ESPN because that's what he wants, and he currently isn't, that he'll just say, okay, well, I'm not going to sign another contract and I'll just do the Stephen A. Smith show full time. And he'll just figure it out from there. And maybe he'll make a lot more money and he'll basically get to just say and do whatever he wants at that point, which he can't do now because as big as he is, he's still subjected to this corporate BS. So, no one wants to be, restrained by those shackles. We'll see how it turns out, but I hear exactly what academics is saying. I still watch this, but I know that I'm in the minority. I know that most people have moved away, and they're like fully on the internet now.
Yeah, it's like you out there picking up the newspaper. You still reading the newspaper, man. It's like
I'm a Betamax, bro. Yeah. I'm a beta. I don't have the concentration. I don't have the attention span to grab my phone and sit there and watch it.
Nah, man, you're a good man. Stay over there, bro. Don't be over here with these brain rot people over here where I'm at, bro. I'm trying to get up out this matrix, man, but I'll be all on my phone all day long, man.
Yeah. I'm not there yet. Shouts out to academics. Shouts out to Cam and May. Shouts out to all of a theme for this stream for me has been shouting out and bigging up creatives, independents.
That's right.
I feel for these people, man. So shouts out to Cam and Mace, even Gilbert Arenas and his show. Shouts out to all the comedians out there, all the original creators out there creating your own stuff. Y'all are the real MVP as long as you're not putting foolishness out there, of course.
That's right.
And good luck, man. I really do want to see y'all succeed out here in these streets. But that'll go ahead and do it for tonight's stream. Another fantastic one in the books. JV Wins Dogon as always. Check me out Instagram JV Wins JVWINS. Check out Conscious Approach on Instagram CONAPPROACH. We are out here. Check us out on all of these channels. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcast. We are uploading the files as we speak. Looking forward to the receptiveness and the feedback therein. Until next time, man, as I always like to say, have a mind for yourself, think for yourself, don't be a group thinker. Not a good sports year, but we'll be better next year. We'll be right back at it. And I didn't give you nothing for losing last week. It's all good. Y'all still playoff bound, so it's all good. There ain't gonna be no undefeated teams this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, everybody stay safe out there. Be respectful to your next person. Think for yourself. And until next time, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, let us know what you think. We'll catch you on the next video.
Yeah. And the name is Dogon SS. You can find me on Instagram at Dogon_SS, on YouTube, DraftKings, TikToks, any of your social media platforms out there. I'm out there at Dogon_SS. Send me a like, send me a follow. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and subscribe or whatever the hell. You know what I'm saying? I'll be out here. I'll most likely do the same if you're not a bot. All right. And as I say on every pod, guys, all right, don't be too high, don't be too low. Keep it calm, keep it chill, keep it real. And don't let anybody get you off your pivot. And I also like to say, guys, thank you for hitting that like and subscribe. Thank you for leaving them comments, as JV Wynn said. He says it, but I would also like to give out my gratitude and thanks, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Because y'all give us the strength, you know what I'm saying, to come out here and crush it for another week. So greatly appreciate y'all. It doesn't go unnoticed. And if y'all do like our videos on the little standalone vibe, come join us on a Tuesday, though. We be doing it every Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Leave a comment in there. We'll read it out. You know what I'm saying? Have a little interaction going on. But until next time, everybody, more rings of Robert Orr. We'll catch y'all on the flip side.
That's right, baby. We are out of here. We will see y'all later. Stay safe. Peace, baby.
Hey, go Birds. Go Birds. Undefeated. Hey, bro, I gave it to myself, bro. You ain't have to say nothing.